Hello and welcome to the Property News Show, where every week we discuss the news as it affects landlords and investors in the UK. As always, I'm joined by Mark Homer, the founder of Progressive Group and a professional property investor. We've got two very exciting stories for you this week. Firstly, we're going to be discussing the mortgage prisoners, a group of people, over 150,000, caught in very high rate mortgages in the wake of the last recession and their attempt to get compensation from the banks. And secondly, we're talking about a scandal in Berkshire where a group of estate agents formed a cartel to create a load of price fixing for commissions and a record fine for that group of people. First of all, Mark, where can people find and follow you online?
I'm on progressiveproperty.co.uk. I've got a podcast, Mark My Words, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, the usual media.
Awesome, thank you. We'll have links for all of those in the description. So our first story today is a story that has been doing the rounds this week. I'm sure you've seen it. It's a story of people who have been trapped in unfair pensions when the banks were partially nationalised after the financial crisis. So as an example, gentleman here, he had a mortgage with Northern Rock. That then got moved to Northern Rock Asset Management. He got moved to a nearly 7% mortgage, of which he didn't have any say in. And then he couldn't move to another mortgage that was a better rate because he was in negative equity. A group of these people have now got together. They're trying to sue for these unfair rates. What do you think about this story, Mark? Is it big news? Is it significant?
Well, I suppose it is significant because there are a lot of them. I'm quite old-fashioned with this sort of stuff. I believe that if you enter into an agreement, even if it's unfavourable to you because circumstances, the economy, the backdrop changes, as happened here, that you shouldn't be held to that contract. I know they're consumers, and the whole notion that you're going to sue a bank for it sticking to the agreement that you agreed to enter into, I do find that an alien concept. I mean, it's sort of I don't know. It's back to the sort of compensation culture, isn't it? Yes, It must be bloody annoying to these people, and we have, Rob and I have been subject to some of this. Obviously, not on loads. I didn't enter into a load of mortgages like this, and we managed to move to other lenders. But they entered into a loan. It would have been relatively high loan to value. Therefore, they are a mortgage prisoner now because they either can't prove a high enough income or the right income or whatever. Because back sort of pre-2007, they're qualified for loans, and now they don't. The bank can't ask for the money back, but what it does do after the 2, 3, 4 years is put them on the standard variable rate, which might be 4, 5 or 6%. Now, at the time of entering into that mortgage in maybe 2005, 6, 7, that wasn't a completely outrageous rate. But as base rate, Bank of England base rate has dropped post the financial crisis of 2008, clearly interest rates now are 0.75 base rate, so you can go and get a mortgage for 1.5%. So it makes these mortgage rates very, very expensive. Now, most other people can just switch to another mortgage lender because they meet the criteria, whereas these people don't. So I don't think the original lenders have done anything wrong necessarily. I mean, okay, maybe when they entered into them, some of these people have told porkies on the application forms, and the lenders will have encouraged that. Or at least some of their BDMs were encouraging it at the time, I remember, because I was there. And they won't have done all the sort of due diligence and checks that they would now. But, sort of in addition, I just sort of think that it's, perhaps what should happen, I think a fairer way to go about this, and the FCA seem to have been addressing this to some degree, is to say, well, new current lenders need to take these, or should I say, lenders which are offering current products should be forced to take some of these people on and are not subject to doing the same checks that they would do today. And I know the FCA have addressed that in some way. If there's an existing mortgage, new lenders aren't forced to do the same underwriting on these these individuals who have already got a mortgage. So that is sort of one escape route. I think they need to work harder to try and find a new lender to take them on at a lower rate.
Do you think this is just, obviously our system is designed with the peaks and troughs in mind. That's how it comes up and down. Do you think this is just an inevitability of people buying at the absolute peak and then we've had a trough and they're kind of trapped on one end when the rest of the market's down at the other end?
It's a bit like...
There's no way to avoid that.
It's really, a bit like saying all those people that took a fixed rate in 2007, 6%, as they were, as I did, and I've got some. I took 10-year fixes out. Obviously, they're sort of coming off now, but there were 20-year fixes. It's like taking a 20-year fix and then 6 years later, interest rates have dropped massively and going, that was really unfair because I can get another rate elsewhere for 1.5% now.
That was the trade-off you made. You chose that.
If interest rates had gone the other way and they were now 12%, should the bank be able to say, well, actually, we can get 12% off other borrowers and you're only paying 6%, therefore you should pay us 12%. Well, that wouldn't be fair either. No. And so I know they're consumers. I know it isn't sort of, it isn't an equal pegging. The consumer will usually is sort of comes off better with these agreements and is when it's a contract between it's business to business. There's two businesses. It usually comes down to what the contract says. Well,
you do worry about setting a precedent one way that then can be used the other way. If this sets a precedent that due to economic shift you can change a contract, that could also be argued the other way. In the same way, your phone contracts can be altered whilst you're still in them now, can't they? Which didn't used to be the case.
No, but for consumers, clearly there is overriding consumer law and consumer protections which override contract law. So that's clearly what they're gunning for here.
Okay. Do you think this is something that's just going to blow over them? Nothing to worry about?
Well, I mean, it goes on for as long.
Ramifications.
It goes on for as long as the mortgages, doesn't it? And there are less and less of them over time because more and more of these people manage to pay their loans down or manage to go to another lender, or maybe they sell their property. The loans come to an end. So this is a problem which will automatically just diminish over time. And I doubt any of these loans were really written for any more than 25 or 30 years. So
finally,
give it another 15 years and they'll pretty much all be gone. So it will of its own. It would disappear of its own accord.
Just final question on this. Obviously, this was primarily to do with banks that were nationalised or part nationalised because of the financial crisis. Do you think there's anything in that it's specifically mismanaged by government and a case for why you should not let that kind of thing happen?
Well, I mean, these were the terms of these loans were written before the banks or these institutions were nationalised. So all the government has done, or if it's gone into UK.
UK asset resolution.
That's it. UK. If it's gone into UKAR, all they're doing is managing the loan upon the basis that it was originally written prior to the government taking it over.
So anyone saying, "Oh, this is proof nationalisation is a bad thing," that's a false argument because this is all organised before that happened.
Okay. These loans were written prior to that. They have subsequently taken quite a few of those loans out of UKAR and sold them on to other lenders. Rob and I have got mortgages which have been sold on to Rescinder. So originally they were written by Mortgage Express, which was Bradford and Bingley. They effectively were going to go bust, so they were rescued by UKAR and they've since been sold out, but on the original terms.
Our second story is a record fine for estate agents for price fixing. So these are estate agents that were had a monopoly over several towns. They were the largest estate agents across several towns. They were fixing their commission rates quite high at 1.8% to make sure that they all got a really nice chunk of the house sales that were sold. One of the estate agents came forward as a whistleblower. and across the different companies involved, they've been fined over £600,000. Yeah, well, you notice the Stitch is the only one that was didn't get any fine.
I know.
So, but obviously this brings a wider conversation about practices and ethics within like estate agents.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? Have you ever had any bad experiences with estate agents trying to kind of do anything that dodgy or wrong?
Absolutely, of course. I believe that it is inherent within the capitalist psyche for monopolistic behaviour to sort of permeate through these markets. So, if agents have the ability to price fix between them, then I think they will do that. Of course, that's in their interest. They need to get their income up as high as possible. So if they are part of a cartel and they actually stick to the terms of the cartel, then that's going to benefit them all. The reality of this situation is that's not what I experience. I think in terms of price, it's a very effectively functioning market. I mean, if I think of my local town, where I live, Stamford, that's probably more like this area, of Berkshire, where this has taken place. And it's dog eat dog. I mean, they're down to 0.75%, 1%. There's 3 or 4 of the, higher end agencies shut in the last year that I've seen. So there must be more. I know that's, partly because the market's slowed, but
that's the theory of a free market, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it works.
Equal competition means that it will drive prices down and quality higher. And obviously that then gets scuppered when things like this happen.
I think it works. And in Peterborough, same thing. They're all vying for business and stabbing each other in the back and nicking an instruction off another one for, £200. There's all that going on. So that tells me that it is highly competitive and it works. That's not to say you won't have pockets like this where there's this sort of thing going on. I think you make a really good point. I'm very sceptical when I see that one of the market participants has been the good agent and reported the misdoings and the bad behaviour of their counterparts. And therefore has avoided a fine. I can't imagine the motivations behind
despite
such an
obviously
action.
being part of it for many years. They've got away.
And participating in it, no doubt, as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Along with a load of other things. So, I'd love to know what the truth is in that market.
In case of one of them was going to break first and they saw the opportunity.
Or, it was, there was maybe a little bit of it going on. They had some evidence and thought, right, these buggers, I've been competing with them for a number of years on X, Y, and Z. I want to get one over on them. Let's get them a nice fine. Let's send a load of information up to this.
So, price fixing and this kind of cartel, as it's talked about, is only possible if people choose to use local estate agents. People that are local to them, which is predominantly what people do. But do you think the rise in online estate agents, places like Purple Bricks, is a good way to offset this effect? Because Purple Bricks, even if they don't have the same local knowledge, effectively means there is a cheaper option for everybody, which should theoretically prevent this kind of thing from happening.
Yeah, I think it increases competition, and I think those online agents have absolutely brought the pricing of sort of traditional, sort of fixed location agents. I think it's made them a lot more competitive. In our market, you'd see instructions at 1.7, 1.5, 1.75, 2% frequently. A lot of them are down at 0.75 and 1% now. And I think that's the online thing that's done that.
And that's good for, obviously, investors.
Well, it's good and bad. I mean, when I look to sell a property, I won't go to one of those online ones.
No.
I will find a local agent. I'll find the best one, and then I'll want to pay them.
Yeah.
When we sold our property, this last property, I think the agent said, we can go down to 1%, 1.25%, whatever. And I said, no, I want to pay you 1.5%. But if you get over this much for the property, another, 20 grand over, where I thought it could really sell. Well, basically 10 grand less than they said it could sell for. But of course, agents always say it's going to sell for a lot more than it will do. I said, I'll pay you 2%. And of course, that's a little bit counterintuitive in some ways to agents, because most people are just sort of nickel and diming them.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if they get another 20 grand on your house sale and you pay them another 3 grand in fees, who's the winner?
Yeah.
We both are. So, and they have the ability to do that because they can push your property more and work it harder. So I think it's a false economy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you've read Free Economics at all, but there's an interesting section in that, and they talk about, house selling, real estate in the US, where there is the assumption that you and the estate agent have an aligned goal, which is to sell your house for the most amount of money. But that actually isn't the case.
No.
You want to sell your house for the most amount of money.
They just
want to
sell
the most houses as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
To get them, and there's this, and that they talk about this idea of the assumption of alignment, and actually that's not the case.
No.
And like what you said, you used the method to get them aligned
absolutely.
with you, and you got the result you want.
That is absolutely what you want to do whenever you're selling a property. You want to make the rewards for them disproportionately high when getting you the top sales price. And you'll see they'll put a lot more effort into it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Cool. All right, thank you very much. Once again, we just tell everyone where they can find and follow you online.
Yes, progressiveproperty.co.uk, and also my podcast, which is Mark My Words. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well.
Thanks again for watching the Property News Show. We hope you enjoyed. As always, please remember to like and subscribe this video and leave a comment below. We love reading them, we love hearing your thoughts on the stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.